Ken Trahan along with Lenny Vangilder. It's our First NBC Bank weekend preview, brought to you by First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNOLA.com. The New Orleans Pelicans are back in action against the Houston Rockets. They're on the road, in fact, a very, very difficult, challenging road trip. Utah, Denver. Of course, Denver, a team that they're chasing. Utah, obviously a very good team. And certainly the Houston Rockets will be bent on revenge after what happened to the Pelicans against them in New Orleans.
You would think, and you're right, this is a very challenging road trip. If there is any remote hope still of getting to the 8th spot, you got to go at least 2-1 here. There's no margin for error at this point. And obviously, I think the key game of this trip is Denver. If you're going to go 2-1, Denver's got to be a win, and you've got to split the other two because you've got to ensure a couple of things. One, you put yourself in a position, if you can beat Denver, down the road of winning that tiebreaker, but secondly, you've got to be able to gain ground on them. Houston and Utah are way up there. You're not catching them, obviously. So you've got to be able to gain ground on that team that you've got to overcome for the 8th spot.
3 games with Denver left, in fact, so obviously there is at least that. DeMarcus Cousins coming off of his best game as a Pelican. He was remarkable with 41 points and 17 rebounds, was tremendous in the win over Memphis, and obviously they're going to need that moving forward to have any shot. College basketball, LSU introduced its new head coach, Will Wade, and what struck you about him was, A, his youth, and B, I don't want to call it braggadocio, but he was pretty forward in terms of what he thought could be accomplished at LSU.
Well, I don't think he takes this job unless he thinks some really big things can be accomplished. Obviously, when you're in a situation like VCU, it's arguably one of the top 5 mid-major jobs in the country right now, and you're going to pick the right spot to move on to a Power 5 job. And there's a number of them that come open out there, and he felt very strongly about this situation and the tradition that has been there before and trying to get all of that in position going forward to be able to grow some things, back to perhaps what we saw for many, many years under Dale Brown. Can he do it? Well, that remains to be seen, but you got to like the youth, the enthusiasm, what he's going to bring into this position. And look, so many people were calling for, okay, let's look at Kermit Davis. Let's look at, even a Tom Crean or something like that. There were a couple of ways to go about this, and you could take the mid-major route, or you could take somebody either from a Power 5 or had been at a Power 5 school, like some of the other SEC schools have done. And I think the direction they went is a pretty good way to go.
Football, and where the Saints are concerned, all kinds of stuff still out there. Nothing has happened with Malcolm Butler yet. And Trahan Armstead reports that he's restructuring his deal with the team. Stay tuned. Even wild stuff about Johnny Manziel. But it's all happenstance. Armstead, you got to believe that's going to happen, obviously, based upon what's been reported. And in terms of Malcolm Butler, listen, again, no one else has signed him to an offer sheet. And I think the longer it goes, the more leverage the Saints have, frankly.
Totally agree. And look, you're putting yourself in a position to do something with Butler by making the Armstead move. Saints hovering around $10 million under the cap at this point. You still want to have the ability to sign some other guys. Obviously, a Butler deal is going to be expensive, and obviously it depends on how it's structured in terms of what it's going to cost you the first year, the second year, so on down the line. But you've got to build that cap room in to be able to make that move, and perhaps that is an harbinger of what is to come in terms of the Saints and the Patriots in regard to Butler.
Yeah, I mentioned Manziel, but speaking of quarterbacks, Pat Mahomes was in town. The Saints worked him out. So there's a guy that could be a number 1 draft pick. If 32 is there, is that something they might actually look at?
I think you look at him more at 43 or 42, whatever the pick is. I think he's a guy that goes into the second round. And, of course, things change. And, you and I have talked about the fact that, assuming 11 isn't in play at Butler, and I don't think that's going to be the case, Saints are going to be in a very good position, especially as it relates to quarterbacks, because the two teams picking behind them could both be interested in quarterbacks. And if someone out there, one of those other 29 teams, other than those 3 we just mentioned, covets a quarterback, Saints could be in a real position to try to trade back, gain some extra picks with that 11th spot if somebody wants to jump up ahead of those teams wanting a quarterback.
College football, of course, spring practice at LSU and Tulane well underway. And the storyline where both are concerned, the quarterback position. And Orgeron declared the quarterback position to be an open competition at LSU, despite Danny Etling doing a good job at the end of last year. And at Tulane, of course, they brought in Jonathan Banks to compete with the guys they already had there. So clearly that has to be the focus.
It has to be. And obviously how successful you are at the quarterback position is going to go a long way in determining how successful you are on the field in 2017. And obviously there's a lot of intrigue at LSU in terms of what Matt Canada is going to do with this offense. As it relates to Tulane, I don't think the powers that be felt that they had the right quarterback for their system in place for 2016. And now perhaps Banks is that guy and will be given every opportunity to be the starter.
College baseball, good win for LSU over Southeastern. Stopped the Lions' run, who had been playing very well. LSU obviously positioned well, but now they've got a very difficult road challenge at Florida this weekend against a wounded Gator team that surprisingly got swept by Auburn last week.
Yeah, very much so. And you have to wonder what a wounded Gator is going to be like come Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But that should be a very intriguing series. They're all on TV, a chance to really see what's going to happen there, and some awfully salty pitching matchups as well.
Yeah, LSU needs Lang to step up. As for Tulane, good win over Louisiana Lafayette. Maybe their best win of the year thus far.
No doubt. And coming home, they've got Stetson this weekend, and after 2 of 3 over Columbia the weekend before, and now 2 midweek wins, McNeese and UL Lafayette. They got a chance to get they dug themselves a big hole, and they're probably outside of just a remarkable run down the stretch, may not be in an at-large position, but certainly, if you can, right this thing and get yourself in contention in the conference race, which is late to start in the American because they've got fewer teams, then, you've still got that to play for.
UNO in the midst of what they call PowerPoints games, RPI games. They lost a game in Missouri, lost a game in Arkansas, which won't hurt them a lot, but you'd love to get one of those wins. They have 2 over LSU. And they stay on the road in Arkansas in conference play, and then, of course, they go to Southern Miss after that. So this was a really long, challenging road trip for Blake Dean's team.
It is. And keep in mind this, when it comes to road games, you really got to value those because you get a chance to get more points for a road win than you do for a home win, which makes even bigger that Tulane win last night in Lafayette.
Very much so. High school baseball, of course, I hope you had a chance to watch our first NBC Prep Showcase game with John Curtis whipping Brother Martin. We'll have version number 2 on radio Friday night as John Curtis hosts Brother Martin at 7 p.m. live on WGSO 990 a.m. Saturday afternoon, weather permitting, we'll have Brother Martin and Rummel from UNO's Maestri Field at 4 p.m. on radio. And, of course, we'll have more coming with our first NBC Prep Showcase.
Yeah, we step aside from baseball for a moment for basketball this weekend. The Bayou River All-Star Shootout at Thibodaux High School. Staple on our schedule each year. We'll be there on Saturday, girls and boys games. We'll have them for you Monday and Tuesday next week on WHNO TV 20. Of course, you can watch them live at SportsNOLA.com.
Look forward to it. Have a good weekend.
You too.
And you have a good weekend as well. That's our First NBC Bank weekend preview brought to you by First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNOLA.com. For Lenny, I'm Kenny. Have a great weekend, and God bless you.